Hi everyone, this is I'm Stuck and welcome to our GCSE History series on America 1920 to 1973. Over the next few videos, we'll explore one of the most fascinating periods in American history, a time of change, progress and struggle. From the Roaring Twenties to the Great Depression, from World War II to the Civil Rights Movement, we'll discover how America transformed itself over 5 decades. Before we dive into the content, however, let me quickly explain how this history unit is structured. So the specification divides America 1920 to 1973 into 3 key periods. First of all, we have American people and the boom of the 1920s. Then we have the bust, which explores the Americans' experience of the Depression and the New Deal. And then we have the post-war America section, which is focused on societal change. In today's introduction, I'll give you a brief overview of the entire period, highlighting key themes and developments you'll need to understand. Let's start with America in 1920. By this time, the United States had emerged from World War I as a major global power. While the European nations had been devastated by the war, America's mainland remained untouched and its industries had grown rich by supplying the Allied war effort. The US was a diverse nation of about 110 million people, often described as a melting pot of different cultures and backgrounds. However, American society was deeply divided along lines of race, class, and origin. In 1920, Republicans controlled the presidency and the Congress, favoring business interests and a limited government intervention into the economy. So the 1920s became known as the Roaring Twenties, or the Jazz Age, a period of economic prosperity, technological innovation, and cultural change. Economically, America had experienced a boom led by new mass production techniques pioneered by Henry Ford. There were increased consumer goods like cars, radios, and home appliances, and a cycle of prosperity where increased production led to more jobs, higher wages, and greater spending. Republican policies also favored business through lower taxes and tariffs. However, this prosperity was not shared equally. While the wealthy enjoyed unprecedented luxury, many groups were left behind. Farmers struggled with falling crop prices, African Americans faced segregation and discrimination, and recent immigrants often worked in low-paid jobs. Socially, America was transforming. Women had won the right to vote in 1920. Many embraced new freedoms as flappers. Entertainment flourished with the rise of cinema, radio, and jazz music. Yet alongside these changes, America was deeply divided over issues such as prohibition of alcohol, immigration restrictions, religious values versus modernization, race relations, and the rise of the Ku Klux Klan. The prosperity of the 1920s came to a dramatic end in October 1929 with the Wall Street crash. Stock prices collapsed, wiping out billions of dollars of wealth in days. This triggered the Great Depression, the worst economic crisis in American history. By 1932, the situation was desperate. 25% of Americans were unemployed. Thousands of banks and businesses had failed. Farmers lost their land as crop prices plummeted. Homeless Hoovervilles sprang up in major cities, and many Americans struggled to feed their families. President Herbert Hoover's limited response to the crisis made him deeply unpopular. He believed in rugged individualism, the idea that Americans should solve their own problems rather than rely on the government for help. In the 1932 election, Americans overwhelmingly voted for change, electing Democrat Franklin D. Roosevelt as president. Roosevelt promised a New Deal to help America recover from this depression. The New Deal introduced unprecedented government intervention in the economy through relief programs, public works projects, and financial reforms. While these policies helped many Americans survive the Depression, full economic recovery did not come until America entered the World War II in 1941. After World War II, America emerged as a superpower with a booming economy. The late 1940s and 1950s saw rising prosperity and the growth of suburbs, the expansion of the middle class, increasing consumerism and mass culture, and the beginning of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. This era also brought significant challenges. The Second Red Scare and McCarthyism created a fear of communist infiltration, and despite economic growth, poverty persisted for many Americans. The 1960s and early 1970s were a time of dramatic social change. The Civil Rights Movement achieved landmark legislation under Presidents Kennedy and Johnson, and the women's movement fought for greater equality. America also became increasingly divided over the Vietnam War, and youth culture and counterculture challenged traditional values. Throughout this period, America struggled between the gap between its ideals of freedom and equality and the reality of continuing inequality and discrimination. As we study this period, we'll focus on several key themes. So the contrast between opportunity and inequality in American society, the changing role of government in American life, the struggle for civil rights and social justice, and America's economic development and transformation. In your exam, you'll be tested on the understanding of these themes through questions about different interpretations of events, key features and characteristics of the period, making judgments about the relative importance of factors and how events affected different groups of Americans. This video hopefully gives you a brief overview of this time period. In this playlist, we'll be covering the course in far more depth, so stay tuned. If you did find it helpful, please drop a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video about the causes of the 1920s boom.